8 strange and creepy facts about Bruce Lee's life. Few people have had the social impact Bruce Lee did. Just about everyone knows who he was and what he did, but there are many aspects of his life that the public never got to see. 1. He wasn't a master of any standard form of martial arts. Ask anyone about Bruce Lee, and they will undoubtedly point out that he was a master martial artist. They may even say he was a master of Kung Fu, but the truth is, he never mastered any martial art practiced throughout the world. That isn't to say he didn't know what he was doing, and that he couldn't kick pretty much everyone's ass if the mood struck him. He just didn't pick one way to do it. He picked them all. It said that Lee only ever lost one fight when he was 14 years old. He had no training at this point, but the experience spurred his need to learn to defend himself. This eventually brought him under the influence and tutelage of Yip Man in 1957, who taught Lee Wing Chun. If Lee was close to mastering any martial art, it was Wing Chun. So why did the great Lee not technically master anything? Most likely it's because, due to Lee's mixed ancestry, he had a difficult time finding a sparring partner to train with. Chinese custom frowns on teaching martial arts to foreigners, and Lee's mother was half Chinese and half Caucasian, which many thought inappropriate. Because of this, Lee was taught directly by Yip Man, which helped to influence his studies considerably. But before Lee could complete his training, he moved to the United States to continue his education. He ended up settling in Seattle in 1959 before he moved to Minnesota to attend college in 1960. Lee didn't abandon martial arts when he left Hong Kong, but his formal instruction in Wing Chun came to an end, leaving him without the training necessary to completely master the form. 2. He invented his own style of martial arts. After leaving Hong Kong, Lee began to teach his own form of martial arts. He based his style on the teaching of Man and what he learned of Wing Chun, but called his form Jun-fan Kung Fu, which translates into Bruce Lee's Kung Fu. He was a very humble man. Lee opened his first martial arts studio in Seattle, which he called the Lee Jun-fan Kung Fu Institute. He continued to develop his style until he created Jeet Kune Do in 1967. Jeet Kune Do evolved after Lee's fight with Wong Jack Man in 1964, a fight that arose due to Lee's insistence on teaching non-Chinese students. The fight went on for 20 minutes. Upon reflection, Lee concluded that lasted too long, and the form of Kung Fu he was following was too formalistic to be practical. This led to the evolution of Jeet Kune Do, a system of fighting that abandons the rigidity of established forms and places an emphasis on practicality, speed, and physique. Lee built upon his already established physical regimen to improve his physique to Captain America levels. Fitness and nutrition became paramount in his training, and he formalized Jeet Kune Do as a new martial arts. He called it the style of no style, emphasizing the abandonment of a formalized approach to training. Lee's influences in establishing his new style came from fencing, Western-style boxing, and Wing Chun. Jeet Kune Do is still practiced thanks to Lee's influence and teachings. Some notable practitioners include his son Brandon Lee, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lady Gaga, and Nicolas Cage, among many others. 3. He was a child actor, having starred in 20 films in Hong Kong before the age of 18. It's hard to find someone who doesn't know Bruce Lee and his work like Enter the Dragon, but most people aren't aware of his prolific body of work prior to his worldwide fame. Bruce Lee was acting since he was a little kid. He even worked on a film at the tender age of 3 months. In the 1941 film Golden Gate Girl, he played a Chinese baby, which, let's face it, he nailed it. He didn't do much more until the age of 6, when he starred in The Beginning of a Boy. By his 18th birthday, he had performed in 20 films, his last child star role was the film The Orphan, in 1960. Most of Lee's work from his adolescence is unknown outside of China and Hong Kong, but over there, it's no state secret. Finding his Hong Kong work in English and other languages can be difficult, but anyone so inclined to check them out can usually find them at the Hong Kong Film Archive, thanks to their lapsing into the public domain. While there are no official translations into other languages, some intrepid fans have compiled English subtitles on choice features, so the films can be enjoyed by fans outside of China. 4. He popularized the 1-inch punches scene in Kill Bill Vol. 2. Remember that scene in Kill Bill, Volume 2 when Uma Thurman's the bride is buried alive and has to 1-inch punch her way out of her coffin? Most people watching something like that would probably dismiss it as an impossibility or a gimmick, but it was based off of something Bruce Lee often did at performances. Basically, Lee would stand in front of a volunteer who would have a board or some other protective gear covering their chest. Behind them would be a chair, and Lee would place his fingers on their chest in preparation for the punch. Within an instant, Lee would pull his fingers into a fist and punch with all his considerable strength. The result often caused the volunteer to slam back into the chair and slide back a few feet. People have been studying just how the legendary martial artist pulled off this feat for years. According to biomechanical researcher Jessica Roser, Stanford University, when watching the 1-inch punch, you can see that his leading and trailing legs straighten with a rapid, explosive knee extension. This forces the speed of his twisting hips to increase, which lurches his shoulder forward. He was literally putting his entire body, and likely most of his resting energy, into each punch. Lee would instantly pull his fist back, which shortened the impact time. This compressed the force and made the punch all the more powerful. 5. He was a prolific poet and philosopher. Hardly anyone would think Bruce Lee was a poet or philosopher, but that's exactly who he is. He studied poetry and philosophy in school and was even published several times. While studying at the University of Washington, he focused his studies on Asian and Western philosophy, incorporating elements of Jiddu, Buddhism, Taoism, and Krishnamurti. This helps him to better understand himself and how he and his martial arts are more of a method of self-expression of his philosophy than anything else. His understanding of philosophy helped develop his love of poetry, which he used as a way of expressing his feelings. Most of his published work was compiled and edited by John Little, who described his poems as, by American standards, rather dark, reflecting deeper parts, less revealing of the human psyche. Many people seem to express a feeling of return, of the ephemeral nature of human life, love and longing passion. 6. He was so fast, his moves were often too fast for a camera to catch. Bruce Lee's speed is the stuff of legend. Anyone who's ever watched a video of the man doing, well, whatever, has seen that the way he moves defies logic, physics, and the natural world. His tremendous speed is the result of his devotion to nutrition and fitness, which have made his body perfect. His blows were so fast, they couldn't be blocked by everyone who had ever tried to face him. This leads some to think that his moves are super fast, as you can barely see them on camera. In fact, he was moving so fast, they just didn't need to make any improvements on the film to make him look faster than he actually is. In many scenes, he actually needed to slow down to make the movie look realistic. He was so fast. 7. He only made 5 feature films in the US, his last released posthumously. Some may remember him from his role as Kato on The Green Hornet, but most people recognize Bruce Lee as the leading man in films like Enter the Dragon and Fist of Fury. By the time he died at the age of 32, Lee had only acted in 5 major American productions. His first, Marlowe, had him playing a supporting role. It wasn't until The Big Boss that we got to see Bruce Lee playing, well, Bruce Lee. He followed this up with Fist of Fury, The Way of the Dragon, and his most well-known film, Enter the Dragon. 8. He died after taking medication for a headache due to a severe allergy to painkillers. Bruce Lee's death was a tragic accident that no one could have foreseen. His brain swelled significantly, increased by 13%, due to an allergic reaction to which Lee had to take meprobamate. For a man whose entire adult life has been about nutrition and fitness, it's hard for him to die for a single pill for something as simple as a headache. His death is officially considered a death of wrongdoing, an investigator uses for someone who dies in an accident, usually after engaging in dangerous behavior, although it is difficult to seriously consider taking a headache pill as risky. Rumors of a conspiracy and murder began to appear in the media, but the conclusion was certain Lee died of cerebral edema. The worst part is, this edema could have been cured if he had seen a doctor sooner.